In this video, I'm going to show you my entire Penguin hardback cloth-bound classics. There's 85 of them out there in total, and I have 26, so I'm going to show them to you, and we're going to read the first line together and judge the book a little bit. Is this something that we want to read? Which one of these do I want to read first? I've read a couple of them and I'll share my thoughts on those, so let's get started. Hi there, my name is Karen and welcome back to another bookish type video. Now there are a lot of other collections that I love in my little personal library, such as the Puffin in Bloom collection. They're gorgeous. But in this one, we're going to stick with the Penguin cloth-bound classics. So first off, we have here a set. This is the Bronte Sisters. So we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, Villette, Charlotte Bronte, and Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte. Now I've read only Jane Eyre and I talk about it all the time. It's one of my top 3 favorite books of all time. And let's read the first line here. Now with these books, there are a lot of notes in the beginning. We have timelines, we have an introduction, we have criticism, biography. So it's a few pages in the front you got to get through before you actually get to chapter 1. All right, so let's read the first line of Jane Eyre together. There was no possibility of taking a walk that day. That's it. Short but sweet. And just looking over Eliza and John and Georgina and Jane, obviously, you get the feeling when it's a book that you love, a favorite, like your friends are here in the book. Does anybody else feel that way when they're reading a book and they're always going to be there for you? These are friends and you just leave them behind in between these pages, and whenever you need them, they're there. And every time that you pick the book up, it speaks to you something different. And it's actually very scientific, because as your map of the world and your worldview and you learn more and experience more, it changes you. Just like you're not the same parent for the first child as your second, third, or fourth. You're a different person, you're a different parent. And so every time you read a book, if any amount of time has passed, you're a different person. And so it's going to speak differently to you. That's why sometimes you read books in high school and you didn't enjoy them, and then later on you read them as an adult and you love them. So it's really interesting. So I just get that sort of nostalgia every time I read the first line of a book that I love. Now, I've never heard of Villette. My godmother lived in a handsome house in the clean and ancient town of Breton. Okay, so that's it. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. This is by Anne Bronte. I don't know much of this Bronte sister. Chapter 1, you must go back with me to the autumn of 1827. So I like this already, and it reminds me of Jane Eyre. I tend to prefer books that are talking to you, or maybe I'm reading another one right now where it's sort of a letter being written to someone and explaining their whole life story. Same thing with Jane Eyre. It seems like this one is the same way, where they're talking to you. I don't really enjoy a lot of times books that are written in the third person. I like books that either jump around from different perspectives, different point of views, or consistently from one character talking to the reader. That's why I love that line from Jane Eyre at the very end where it says, "Reader, I married him." I know. I made a poster out of that one line and everybody that looked at it just did not understand it. But if you read Jane Eyre, you get it. Okay, so Wuthering Heights. This one, I wanted to read it after Jane Eyre, and then talking to my friends, they were like, it's not going to be the same. Don't expect it to be the same. It's kind of dark, it's different, and so that kind of was like, I wasn't too excited to read it after that. So let's see, 1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbor that I shall be troubled with. So that actually makes me want to read it. What kind of trope is this? I don't know. I don't know anything about it, so don't spoil it down below. But is this a enemies to lovers, kind of trope? Forced proximity trope with the neighbors? So yeah, it's funny because there's just endless possibilities of stories that you can write, and yet we seem to gravitate to the same type of tropes. So it's interesting. Okay, the next one is this beautiful purple cloth bound of Madame Bovary. It's got all these nice little plants here by Gustave Flaubert. Now, I don't know anything about this story, Madame Bovary. The only thing that I can recall, and this is gonna sound really silly, but it's a VeggieTales story. Does anybody remember? I don't know what even fruit or vegetable that purple thing was. Was it a plum? I'm thinking it was a plum. Now it kind of makes me want to go back and watch that cartoon. But I think it was that she couldn't get enough stuff, right? She couldn't get her fill of things. Okay, let me know in the comments down below if you have read Madame Bovary. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? And am I getting it right? Is it similar to that VeggieTales cartoon? So let's read the first line here. We were at prep when the head came in, followed by a new boy not in uniform and a school servant carrying a big desk. Okay, that's it. That's the first line. So starting off in a school setting there. Now, the next one is Moby Dick, obviously classic, famous, by Herman Melville. And the first line is infamous, right? Call me Ishmael. We all know that. Let's go to it together. I started reading it and I didn't finish it. Yep, Call me Ishmael. Some years ago, never mind how long precisely, having little or no money in my purse and nothing particular to interest me on shore, I thought I would sail about a little and see the watery part of the world. So that's the first couple of sentences. This is beautiful. Now, I will say that I do love the classic starts. If you really want to sort of whet your kids' appetite when it comes to classics, and obviously this is going to be a bit challenging, the classic start books are just so wonderful. They're, you know, decent sized little chapters, very digestible. It's got great, nice font, space in between it, and yeah, they get excited about the books. I have The Last of the Mohicans, Time Machine, Anne of Avalea, Swiss Family Robinson, and then on and on. Whatever I don't have, I want to get because I really do love these books. All right, next we have a book that is on the Robinson curriculum book list for sure. I know this. This could be sort of a controversial one, Paradise Lost, and then there's also Paradise Regained, but this is just Paradise Lost. And it has to do with the fall of Adam and Eve and all of that, and it's poetry. Now, this is meant for high school age. This is challenging here. So I wouldn't worry about it. There's only like one or two things in here that could be considered kind of graphic, but it's written in such a way where I don't even think you realize it. You're just trying to get through the text, and it's not a lot throughout the book. It's maybe just a couple things, but I mean, you're depicting the grotesqueness of hell. So it's going to be a little, as you can imagine. So book one, The Argument. The first line is, this first book proposes first in brief the whole subject, man's disobedience and the loss thereupon of paradise wherein he was placed. Then touches the prime cause of his fall, the serpent, or rather Satan in the serpent, who revolting from God and drawing to his side many legions of angels, was by the command of God driven out of heaven with all his crew into the great deep. So I really want to read it. That first line just makes me want to read it even more. So out of all of these so far, I would say Paradise Lost. This is not a Penguin classic. I just put it here. It kind of goes here, but this is Uncle Tom's Cabin. And then right here, this is not Clothbound, but I'm thinking this is a Penguin classic. This is one of the most beautiful books that I have in my collection, and it is Dracula. Now, I'm not going to take it out of the plastic because it's just so special, but it's a die cut cover, and it also came with a die cut bookmark. 3rd of May, Bistrix left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st of May, arriving at Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. Budapest seems a wonderful place from the glimpse which I got it from the train and the little I could walk through the streets. So, and it says kept in shorthand. So this is Jonathan Harker's journal. So again, I know that I love something like this, you know, a journal, writing to someone. It just makes it very easy to read classics this way. I think this would be a great book to read in October. I mean, I don't celebrate Halloween or anything, but I'm very seasonal now when it comes to reading. This would be hard to read in the middle of summer, so maybe now during fall. Next up, we have this really beautiful girly collection here, and this is the Jane Austen collection. So we have Love and Friendship, it's heavy, Persuasion, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, Emma, Sense and Sensibility, and Pride and Prejudice. So let's read the first line together and see which one of all of these we want to read first. Now, I have read Pride and Prejudice, but that's about it. Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings. And it says here, the uncle of Elfrida was the father of Frederick. In other words, they were first cousins by the father's side. So that's it. That's the first line. Mansfield Park. I haven't read any other of these books. So chapter 1 says, about 30 years ago, Miss Maria Ward of Huntington, with only £7,000, had the good luck to captivate Sir Thomas Bertram of Mansfield Park in the country of Northampton, and to be thereby raised to the rank of a baronet's lady, with all the comforts and consequences of a handsome house and large income. That was all one sentence. That was Mansfield Park. So much has to do with status and who you marry and how many pounds per year and all of that, right? Persuasion, very famous here. First line, Sir Walter Elliot of Kellynch Hall in Somersetshire was a man who, for his own amusement, never took up any book but the Baronetish, I'm butchering these words. There he found occupation for an idle hour and consolation in a distressed one. There his faculties were roused into admiration and respect by contemplating the limited remnants of the earliest parents. There, any unwelcome sensations arising from the domestic affairs changed naturally into pity and contempt. That was all the first line. So that is Persuasion. Then we have Northanger Abbey. Chapter 1, line 1. No one who had ever seen Catherine Morland in her infancy would have supposed her born to be an heroine. Pride and Prejudice, of course. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Classic Jane Austen. Love this one. I get that nostalgic feeling too, like my friends are in here. Sense and Sensibility. Chapter 1. Sometimes I feel like reading these in a British accent, no? The family of Dashwood had long been settled in Sussex. That's it. That's the first line. Interesting. And Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, I don't know what accent that is, but it is not UK, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. Again, I don't know what accent that was, sorry, but sometimes when I read aloud books to my kids, I remember doing this in elementary school. When I would read aloud, I would always make voices, and the teachers would be cracking up. No one ever discouraged me from doing it, and so it was a lot of fun. And now when I read aloud to my kids, sometimes I do accents as well, but I also throw in stuff to see if they're paying attention, like crazy things. Like oftentimes with Little House on the Prairie, I would throw in something like, and then Ma lost her temper and threw the pot down, and you know, just something completely out of left field that the character would never do, and the kids would just always crack up, and they're like, Mom. So, okay, Crime and Punishment. This is by Fyodor Dostoevsky, I'm assuming, Russian. At the beginning of July, during a spell of exceptionally hot weather, towards evening, a certain young man came down on the streets from the little room he rented from some tenants in S. Lane, and slowly, almost hesitantly, set off towards K. Bridge. So I'm wondering why they censor the street names. Does this have anything to do with politics? I'm wondering. If you know, please let me know in the comments down below. So it's not as big and overwhelming as I thought it would be. Now, next one, another Russian author, Leo Tolstoy. We have Anna Karenina, one of my all-time favorites. I think from this collection, certainly, top 2 are Jane Eyre. I do have a top 3. I do have a top 3 in all of the Clothbound classics. It would be very hard to rank them. So far in the 3, we have Jane Eyre, and the second book would be Anna Karenina, and then I'll share with you the third one in just a second. But I just love this book. And if I could just warn Anna on the train, don't look at that guy, don't talk to him. All right, first line. All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. What a great fine. That's one of those very thought-provoking lines. And a quote that kind of cross-references to me this is from The Crawdad Sings, where it says, I didn't know a line or a sentence or words, I think it was words, could hold so much. So here you have an example of a line, one sentence that really holds so much, especially when you think about it in the context of the whole story and the Levin storyline and Anna Karenina and all of that. And I don't know why, but here on this page, right before it says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Interesting. All right, so here is my number 3. Out of my top 3 from these books, number 3, my other favorite, is Around the World in 80 Days. Normally, you think you learn so much from nonfiction books. I know I do, just business or mindset or whatever it may be. I feel like I learn so much from nonfiction, and fiction is just sort of my escape. However, I learned a lot in this book as to how to remain stoic and how to always keep your cool and always thinking positive and always having the end goal in mind. There's actually a lot of NLP in this book, believe it or not. So this is one of my all-time favorites. Love this story. And again, this is another example of a book, such a skilled writer, where you could feel that passion, that love, without any kind of explicit material or spice or anything like that. And this is not a romance book, obviously. However, there is one woven in there, and it takes a bigger part at the end. And really, who was it that said all books and all songs ultimately are about love? So there's always some kind of storyline in there usually. Okay. All right, so first line here. In the year 1872, the house at number 7 Savile Row, Burlington Gardens, the house in which Sheridan died in 1814, was lived in by Phileas Fogg, Esquire, one of the oddest and most striking members of the Reform Club, even though he seemed determined to avoid doing anything that might draw attention to himself. Great line. Great. Now down here we have the Count of Monte Cristo, very popular, Alexander Dumas. Is it the Count of Monte Cristo? No, Don Quixote, I think, is the most number 1 selling novel of all time, 500 million copies or something like that. So I get it confused with the Count of Monte Cristo. So let's look here, first line. The lookout at Notre Dame de la Garde signaled the arrival of the 3 master Pharaon coming from Smyrna, Trieste, and Naples. All right, again, probably butchered some names there. I don't know, it doesn't really call to me. War and Peace, look at this. This is a brick. I don't know if I will ever read this. There is a YouTube channel that I follow where she breaks down Russian classics literature. She really enjoys them, and she gives great tips on how to just kind of mentally break it down, I guess. But I don't know about this one. Well, Prince Genoa and Lucca are now nothing more than estates taken over by the Bonaparte family. I kind of want to read the second line. No, I give you fair warning. If you won't say this means war, if you will allow yourself to condone all the ghastly atrocities perpetrated by that Antichrist, yes, that's what I think he is, I shall disown you. Okay, I could actually keep on reading this right now. So, I don't know, it got my attention. That first line can sometimes do it. Now, I don't know what this is about. I've never researched it. If this has to do with the Bolshevik Revolution, I mean, I guess it depends what point of view. I just hate reading anything favoring communism. I don't want to read it. I have family living in a communist country, and it's horrible. It's terrible. And even right now, I'm reading Normal People by Sally Rooney, and the characters, I hope they grow out of it. In high school, they were, one of them was sort of getting into communism, and no, it makes me want to not finish it, honestly, but I'm giving the characters space to grow. Okay, last set we have here is Charles Dickens. So this is the Dickens set. It's got a nice little, this one's black here. We have Great Expectations, Oliver Twist, A Christmas Carol, A Tale of Two Cities, Bleak House, and Hard Times. So let's take these out and read the first line. If you've read any of these, please let me know in the comments down below. Great Expectations. I know some of these are on the RC book list. I just can't right now remember. Great Expectations, chapter 1, line 1 says, my father's family name being Pirip and my Christian name Philip, my infant tongue could make of both names nothing longer or more explicit than Pip. So I called myself Pip and came to be called Pip. So I think I could enjoy this. I can read, again, it's kind of talking to you, that first person point of view. Oliver Twist, all I know from this one is that whole meme thing, like, please sir, can I have some more soup or whatever. Among other public buildings in the town of Moodfog, it boasts of one which is common to most towns, great or small, to wit, a workhouse. And in this workhouse there was born on a day and date, which I need not trouble myself to repeat, inasmuch as it can be of no possible consequence to the reader, in this stage of the business of all events, the item of mortality, whose name is prefixed to the head of this chapter. Wow. That was the first line. And I know that a workhouse is like a factory where people would go to kind of get that day's wage, not at all very good working conditions. So I'm getting the tone here of Oliver Twist. Now, the next one is A Christmas Carol. Now, I did attempt to read this out loud 2 Christmases ago to the kids, and I got pretty well in, and then we just watched the Disney version. I love that Disney cartoon with Marley, Goofy, and Donald Duck and everything. I love that cartoon. That's nostalgia for me, that Christmas Carol. And so that's one of the things where I want to watch it every year, along with Small One. I bet you've never heard of that Small One cartoon. Disney, I'm sure, is trying to bury that one because of its depiction of Jewish people, I guess. But Small One's my favorite. And then Christmas Carol would be the second one. So if you watch those, let me know. I doubt you've seen Small One, though. That one. Line 1. Marley was dead to begin with. That's it. That's the first line. And Marley, of course, we know is Goofy. The Christmas Carol. Okay, next we have A Tale of Two Cities. Now, I think this one's on the RC book list, and I want to read it myself. I almost, because of this book, joined the Ben Shapiro book club. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he has this Daily Wire book club where he goes over classics like this, but then he kind of breaks down. Basically, it's for people who want to seem well read and know what these books were about and how they shaped America without actually reading the books. So for a moment I was tempted because it was this book he was doing that month, but I decided no, I'm going to read it myself and not be influenced by anybody else, their opinion, their interpretation, the way they see it. So I didn't join the book club. But this book almost, because I am really curious about it. So chapter 1, the period, and it says, classic line, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct to the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. That was all one sentence, and it was an entire paragraph. See, so like, why are we stressing so much with our kids and run-on sentences? I mean, look at that. And that's Dickens. So very kind of poetic language there. Then we have Bleak House, London. That's it, because there's a period there now. Michaelmas term, lately over, and the Lord Chancellor sitting in Lincoln's Inn Hall. That's it. See, these don't seem like complete sentences to me, but yeah, interesting. Okay, then we have Hard Times by Charles Dickens. I'm noticing a theme here. Chapter 1, line 1. Now, what I want is facts. That's it. That's the line. I have to read the next line. Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Facts alone are wanted in life. Plant nothing else and root out everything else. Okay, so I want to keep reading. So I think out of all the Charles Dickens books, this is the one I want to read first, is Hard Times. Although, A Tale of Two Cities, I still really want to read that one. Let me know in the comments down below, out of all of the books, which was your favorite first line, and comment down with a book emoji to let me know that you made it to the end of the video, because you are the VIP here. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I think you would really like this bookish type video, but YouTube's algorithm thinks you would like this video better. So whichever one you choose, I will see you there. Talk to you soon. Bye.